Welcome to this video in which I'm going to be looking at the clip path tool using Techsoft Design V3. The context here is that this designer is making some playing cards based on the character Aphrodite. And we have two designs here. The one that we have in the middle of the screen, the designer has taken this image off the internet and then just scaled it down to fit this box. And then on the right hand side, we have a second playing card box, and they've done the same process, but they've distorted the image. So let's just see what's happened here. Basically, when you take an image off the internet, what you need to make sure you do is resize it without distorting the image. Now, I'm going to distort this one by basically clicking on one of these side handles and stretching it out. Okay, and that has now distorted the image. I could distort it even more, for example, just to highlight the problem. Okay, I could also left click on one of these corner resize handles and do the same thing. We need to avoid doing that. So the way to avoid it, the simple way to avoid it, is to click on the graphic, and then rather than left clicking on these resize handles, if I right click on a resize handle, now as I change the size of that image, you'll see that the little gray construction lines there that define the new size, they maintain the proportions of the X and Y size of that graphic. So we don't get any distortion of the image. So that's how the designers made sure that the image here of Aphrodite has not been distorted. But over here, they've had to distort it to fit inside this rectangle portrait view, this tall, thin rectangle. So what we need to do instead basically is cut off the side of the graphic, and we're going to use the clipping tool to do that. So here we go. First of all, the clipping tool is going to be tool A9. So it's going to be this tool right down here on the left-hand side. And if I hold my mouse button down here, there's a few options available. I want to go to this draw a rectangular clip path. Okay, so I'm going to turn on gridlock here to make my life easy, because I can see that this designer has very sensibly used the gridlock to draw out the details of, or the layout of this card design. And now I'm going to go to the top left of this portrait rectangle, and I'm going to click once, and I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom right of that rectangle and click again. And that now defines a new clip path. Go to the selection tool, tool A1 here, select this clip path, and I'm now going to bring it across to the side over here. So I can see that my normal lines are black and my clip path is gray. I'm going to use the clip path away from the rest of the design, because if I'm not careful, this clip path will actually clip everything that it encompasses, and I want to just make sure I'm only clipping the image. Let's clip the image now. I'm actually going to go to step lock here, so I've got a bit more control, because as I pull this down, I can see that the clip path actually is slightly taller than the image. So what I need to do here is just resize the image a little larger. So as planned before, I'm just going to right click on the resize handles, drag that up so it's slightly oversized. Something like that. I can see at the moment my step lock. If I right click here on step lock, I can see that my step spacing is 1 millimeter. Now let's zoom in on this a bit more using my wheel mouse. And now what I'm going to do is just make sure that I kind of just position Aphrodite there so that she is correctly going to be cropped out there. I'm just going to keep her hair on the side there, and now we can just see that that dove is just going to be within the picture as well. Okay, so all I need to do now is come to tool B9, which is right here on my left-hand side toolbar. I'm going to hold the mouse button down, and I want to come to clip to a clip path. Okay, now I'm simply going to clip on the clip path that I want to work with. I get a dialog box here that says, what do I want to do? Well, I want to delete the excess data, and I want to delete outside of the actual graphic. Let's click on OK. There we go. That's just trimmed the image of Aphrodite, and I can now select this again. I can bring it up to the actual card design and drop it in there, and that now is just the perfect fit. Interestingly, it has just trimmed off a little bit of the edge there, but we'll have to see how that comes out when that's printed. Okay, so that's just using a rectangular clip path. But what happens if instead you've got an unusual shape you want to cut out? So let's have a quick look at this design here. So here we've got this graphic off the internet, and what I want to do, here's the graphic on the left here from the internet, and I've already cropped this into what I want to have for my playing card box. And this is not a simple rectangular shape. This is obviously some ears and the head sticking out. Now, what I've got down here in the bottom left-hand corner, if I just use my wheel mouse to zoom around here, is I've already drawn out using a circle tool and using the open polyline tool. I've already drawn out here the shape that I want to crop out from my image. So if I select this, I'm just going to make sure gridlock's turned on here because I know it's going to snap together. Bring this up, drop it over my graphic. Whoop, I think that's slightly off there. It wants to be just a little bit up. No, I'm still slightly off. Getting there, aren't we? There we are. So now I've positioned this profile that I've drawn over the top of my graphic, and I can see that that is the correct size and position to be able to then crop out my cat from the background. Okay, let's just undo that and pull it back. Now, the problem is at the moment, this is not a clip path. This is just a series of vectors. So what I need to do basically is define this as a new clip path. And the problem I've got here is that it's got some elements like this edge of the circle here, which are going to be cutting off the ears of my cat. So I need to just define a new profile around the outside. To do this, I'm going to come to tool B6 on the left-hand side here, the contour tool, and I'm going to define a 0mm contour spacing and graphical. Let's just choose a color for this. So I'm going to make this purple. And I'm going to click, this is important, on the outside edge of the circle. I'm not going to click on the inside edge. I'm not going to click on the circle. I'm going to click on the outside edge of the circle. And what that will now do is it will create this contour that goes around the outside. Notice here I've had to make sure that there are no gaps. So the profile of the ears and the head here actually went beyond the circle to make sure that there were no gaps in that contour. And now if I pull this to the side, that is the clip path that I want to work with. Okay, so let's now select this. This is still a vector in pinky purple. And I'm now going to come to tool A9, hold the mouse button down, and create a clip path from the selected objects. And I want to replace the selected objects. Okay, so created successfully. And now if I click off this, you'll see it's now gray. This is now a clip path. So let's now click on this. I've got gridlock turned on here to make my life easy. So I'm going to zoom in on my cat graphic. I'm going to drop that where I want it to be, which I think wants to be there. And now I can confirm if I zoom in here, yep, that clip path is exactly where I want it to be. Okay, fantastic. Let's now come back to tool B9, hold the mouse button down, go to clip to a clip path, click on that clip path, trim the excess data on the outside, and now there's my graphic ready to insert onto my playing card. Okay, there we are. That's the end of the video. I hope you found that useful. See you next time.